Everybody, Larry Krueger back with you on the Krueg Show as we're off and running on a Tuesday, and it's going to be a great day today. We got a little Giants baseball going tonight, but last night, NBA Finals, game number 5, and I said it before the game, the winner of game 5 is going to win the Finals, and I'll stand by it. And with us to break it down, I think one of the very best in the business at doing exactly that, Grant Napear, longtime voice of the Sacramento Kings, who joins us to give us his thoughts on the Finals. Grant, welcome back. Happy Tuesday morning. And man, what a game. Steph Curry did not fire last night, and yet Golden State still found a way to go up 3-2.
Well, good morning to you. Good morning to everybody that's watching. Listen, Larry, I think I can speak for you. If you knew before the game started what Steph Curry's stat line was going to be, you would say the Warriors are going to have to win 2 games to win this series. I'm amazed. But you and I have been talking about this over the last couple of weeks. The Warriors are not just Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins and Draymond Green. They're a true team. And, you know, some night, like, look at Gary Payton, look at Poole, look at how good those guys played. You know, Wiggins, obviously, we'll get to him in a moment. But the Warriors are not just one team. Now, with that said, they don't win this series without Steph Curry having some monster games. All right. That's why he's a superstar. And the Warriors are still going to need one of those Steph Curry games to win this championship, which I believe that they will. We'll get to the game 6 in a moment. But this is a team, Larry. I mean, it's not just one guy. This is a deep team. You've talked about that very often. Almost every time we come on, you talk about the bench and the role of these guys. And we saw it last night. I mean, it was exhibit A, right? I mean, it was a complete team effort to win against the Boston Celtics last night.
You know, it's funny. Andrew Wiggins had an incredible bust-out performance. He's now had, I believe, 29 rebounds in the last 2 games. Yep. He's rebounding the hell out of the basketball. But more than anything, he's getting into a mode that he rarely gets into. And it's weird. Sometimes I think like his personality fits perfect with this team because he'll defer to others. He doesn't dominate the ball. He doesn't need the accolades. But it's almost like, you know, in this situation, they need him to be a bigger ego. They need him to be like, hey, I'm taking this thing over. He's always had the ability to do it. We know what he was coming into this league. He was very, very highly thought of. But he's got kind of a casual, laid back, you know, personality. It appears from the outside. I don't claim to know him, but he just seems like he's not the take charge guy. But right now, with so many, you know, Curry not having it, some of their young guys too young for the moment, some of the old guys like Iguodala too old for the moment, some guys like Otto Porter kind of broken down in the moment. They need Wiggins to take hold of this thing, and because he's in his prime, his physical prime, and he did exactly that. I mean, it was incredible to watch. What do you think of Wiggins?
Well, he's grown up a lot. I talk to a lot of folks in Minnesota every time that I would play, every time the Kings played there. And, you know, we talk about players on both squads. And every time I used to talk to the people that I'm close with in Minnesota and affiliated with the Timberwolves, they never told me good things about Wiggins. Never once. As a matter of fact, they told me flat out if they were a general manager, they wouldn't trade for him. So let's look at the evolution of Wiggins. He has grown up a lot since coming to Golden State. And why is that? Because of the locker room and the culture, which he did not have in Minnesota. He gets to a professional basketball team, all right? And when he was in Minnesota, I wouldn't call them a professional basketball team by the standards that you and I go by, professional. He gets traded to a professional basketball team where everyone is on the same page and it's all about one thing, and it's about winning and doing it the right way. And Steve Kerr and that organization has a foundation. And if you're talented like Wiggins, and by the way, we've seen a lot of other players that have come in and played for the Warriors over this dynasty, and I believe it is a dynasty, that have done the same thing as Wiggins, where they maybe didn't really fit in their previous stop. I know I saw it in Sacramento, Larry, all the time when the Kings were winning in the high 50s and 60 games over that run. Players would come in and they would buy in. And I think that's the key. They would buy into what was going on because they saw something special going on, even though Sacramento did not win a championship. But in Golden State, players, and even though Wiggins was young at the time he was traded, relatively speaking, he grew up, he bought in, and he hit a right culture for him in his career. We knew he was talented, Larry. I mean, Andrew Wiggins, we saw his talent when he stepped onto the court as a rookie. But there's a lot more that goes into being successful in the NBA than just having talent. You've got to know what it's like to be a professional. You got to know what it's like not to have entitlement. He had entitlement in Minnesota. So I think all of these things, it's been a perfect fit for Wiggins in Golden State.
He was outstanding. And the final line for Wiggins, 26 points, 12 of 23. Didn't make a three. He had 13 rebounds, 2 assists. But the big number to me is 0 turnovers. And to me, that's the big number overall for Golden State. I think they only had 6 or 7 turnovers the entire game. This is a team, Grant, that was turning the ball over when they lost a lot this year. I mean, they didn't lose a lot. They had the 3rd best record in the league. When they did lose, it was because of turnovers.
That's right.
Ball movement, body movement leads to turnovers if you're careless with the ball. And even when these playoffs started, the first round against Denver, they struggled mightily with turnovers. And then they finally found a way to kind of turn off the turnover bug. And I mean, all of a sudden it was like they weren't making tough passes, and they have even in this series against this really, really strong Celtic defense that has Marcus Smart, they found a way to minimize their turnovers. And to me, it's a great thing for them, but it's also a concern because does Boston need to play better in game 6? Yeah. But if Golden State makes maybe twice as many turnovers, let's say it's 12 or 15 or 18 or something like that, suddenly Boston doesn't have to do a whole lot more to close this gap. So to me, that's still very much the key factor for Golden State.
I think that's a great point. I think that is taking care of the basketball is an absolute key for them. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you picked the Warriors before the series began to win in 6. I picked them to win in 7, and I said that Boston would not win if they don't win 2 games on the Warriors' home floor. So I think we're right there. As we look ahead at game 6, I don't know which Boston team is going to show up. I go back to the last series against Miami. They had a chance to close them out at home in game 6, and they laid an egg, and they had to go on the road to beat Miami in game 7. I will think it's interesting that the Celtics before last night, Larry, had not lost back-to-back games in the playoffs. So now they've lost.
Hadn't lost back-to-back since January.
I didn't even realize January.
January was the last time they'd gone back-to-back losses.
Okay, so if we're just going to go with the math and we're just going to use common sense here, a team that has not lost back-to-back games since January has now done that on June 13th. What are the chances of them losing 3 consecutive games, right?
Well, there's 2 ways to look at it. They didn't lose 2 in a row because they never played a team like Golden State. But you're right. I would say my read on it would be like they're unlikely to lose 3 in a row. But I don't know what we're going to see in game 6. Let's talk before we get to game 6. Let's talk about Tatum for a second.
Yep.
Tatum claims to love Kobe. He admired Kobe. He freely discusses it. He wore the Kobe armband. He loves Kobe. He believes in Kobe. Kobe's like his basketball role model, which is great. But they're different positions. And now you got Tatum, and it almost looks like he likes to kind of dribble it around at the top and kind of get into a flow and then rise up for a jumper. And he's got some of Kobe's even mannerisms to him. And I just think that, and I think that this Boston team's ill-constructed because he, in a lot of ways, in the half-court game, and they have no open floor game. They don't even try to get out and run the break. When they get in the half-court, which is where they want to be, he's the point guard. He's the point guard. Are the Celtics, are they in trouble in this series because they don't have a point guard? Because it doesn't seem like they're getting utilizing Tatum at the top and letting him shoot the ball from the perimeter, to me, is wasting the mismatch. If you have Steph Curry on you, get down on the block, pin him to a hip, flash your arms open, and catch the ball.
Yep.
And if you catch it 3 feet from the hoop, you could say the same thing about Horford, same thing about Robert Williams. Yep. If they catch the ball in the lane, it's going to be very difficult for Golden State to stop them. And yet, I didn't even see too many entry passes. I didn't even see Boston even attempt this. And it makes me kind of question Udoka a little bit.
Well, a couple of things. I would say, I don't have the exact percentage, but I would say it's close to 50% of the players idolized Kobe Bryant growing up. Okay? You got to remember, these players grew up watching Kobe Bryant. So Jason Tatum and his infatuation for Kobe is more the norm rather than the exception, even though they didn't play the same position. That doesn't surprise me. I saw that all the time traveling with the NBA. It just blew my mind how many players just grew up idolizing Kobe. When I say it blew my mind, I mean, I wasn't really aware of it. You talk to guys and they were like, literally, Kobe this, Kobe that. I do think the difference in this series is the point guard. And I said this a couple of shows ago. The biggest difference in this series is the Warriors have Steph Curry and the Celtics don't. And I believe Curry's going to have a huge game in Game 6. I think you do as well. That will be the difference in this series. And if Golden State should lose on the road in Game 6, there's no doubt in my mind that they'll win in Game 7, and Curry will be the man that wins that game in Game 7. You know, as far as Udoka, I disagree with you a little bit, and I'm going to go with this. The Boston Celtics, when the calendar hit February, were a 500 team. What they were able to do after a horrendous start by their standards, to have the record that they had, sweep Brooklyn, beat Milwaukee, and win a Game 7 on the road in Miami to get to this point, I think is amazing for a first-year head coach in Ime Udoka. I think he's done a great job. You can nitpick all the time. I mean, that's what we do. That's our job, to nitpick about, gee, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you taking advantage of this mismatch or that? But the reality is they're still 2 wins away from an NBA championship. And if you had said that to anyone in Boston back in February, they would have said, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. So, you know, I think, Larry, it goes back to what you and I have been talking about here for the last couple of shows. The Golden State Warriors are a deeper, better team than the Boston Celtics. I didn't realize this, though, until right before the game last night. Were you aware that the total score in the first 4 games, the 2 teams were separated by 1 point?
No.
Is that unbelievable? And that the 3-point shooting was identical? Now think about that. The cumulative score in the 4 games had the Warriors 1 point better than Boston, and their 3-point shooting was very similar. Okay, so what's really the difference in this series? The difference is the Warriors' best player, Steph Curry, is better than the Celtics' best player and Jason Tatum. That's how I see it. And I know Curry had an off night last night, but this team is deeper than Boston. And so we saw it last night. We saw the depth of the Warriors be the issue. You know, you can talk all you want about Wiggins, and we should, but you look at Payton, you look at Poole. I mean, I don't see how the Warriors don't win one of the next 2 games, Larry. I mean, I think it would be a huge upset if they don't win one of these next 2 games. And obviously, I think everybody would as well. But I think Udoka actually has done a great job with the Boston Celtics. I think he's done a great job.
Oh, I mean, we don't disagree there. I think Udoka's done a great job as well. I'm just saying, in this particular matchup, look at the advantage. Look at the results when the Celtics have fed Horford down on the box, or Robert Williams has caught with a player pinned on him. It's like a layup, and it's almost an uncontested layup. Golden State is not even fouling these guys. They're just like, okay, we gave up the entry pass too close to the bucket. That's just 2. We'll have to get them next possession. And then Boston has not gone to that. And then if you're going to guard Steph Curry, if you're going to guard Tatum with Steph Curry, why have Tatum mess around top of the key and all this razzle dazzle? Pin him to your hip, flash the middle, you know, feed me the ball, and go to work. I'm not getting that, but maybe that's the adjustment. I'll throw that. Why don't we roll that into the next question? Sure. What's the adjustment for Boston going into Game 6? Do you see an obvious one?
They're going to have to make an adjustment because, I mean, if you're looking at this from Boston's perspective, The fact that they lost a game in which Curry was a non-factor, they got to be a little shell-shocked on that long flight going back to Beantown. I mean, think about that. They had a golden opportunity to be going home to win a championship on their home floor because Curry was not the typical Steph Curry. So they're going to have to make some adjustments. What is the adjustment going to be? That's a great question. I don't know specifically, but they are going to have to play a little bit differently on Thursday night to get this series back to Golden State. I mean, I think we know that. And again, Larry, if the Warriors play an A game on the road, they're going to win. If they play their A game, they will beat the Celtics because the Warriors A game is better, in my opinion, than the Celtics A game. Just by a smidgen, but it's better.
Yeah, no, these are very even teams. I'll tell you one thing that I think is undoubtedly true is that the difference in this series may wind up being the return to the floor by Gary Payton II. I mean, Gary Payton II went out in that Memphis series. It was pretty much accepted wisdom at the time that his season was over. I mean, Kerr said he's going to be out a long time. Yep. And somehow he makes this miraculous recovery to the point where he's doing push-ups on the floor last night on that elbow. Payton, 15 points, 5 rebounds. He had a profound impact on both ends of the floor.
Yes,
it's amazing. The NBA is obviously a very popular league, but it's amazing that a guy like this, who's so dominating defensively as far as the length, the athleticism, the tenacity, the genes. Heck, he's the son of the glove. They highlighted on the broadcast last night. 4 NBA teams, 5 G League teams. The Warriors themselves waived him twice. How does that happen? How does that many basketball minds who get paid, all of these general managers, all these assistant GMs, get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars? How does everybody miss on a suffocating defender?
Happens more times than you think. And I'm with you. You know what? Perseverance. You look at the character of Payton, what he's had to go through, that injury, dirty play, I think we all know, by Dillon Brooks in that series against Memphis. The Warriors really were not the same team after that injury. We talked about this. I was not that impressed in how they played in the last 3 games of that series. And the impact, I'll use that word. And I got to pat you on the back. You told me this back in the Denver series when he didn't play, I believe, in games 1 or 2. It was very, sparsely being used. And you're like, man, I don't understand why Gary Payton is not on the floor. And when you look back now at the run of the playoffs with Payton and without Payton, he's been huge for Steve Kerr. Again, you talked about the numbers last night. The impact that he had on that game last night was significant. I don't know if they win the game. I don't think they win the game without Payton last night. I really don't.
Yeah. Key rebounder, key defender, but the depth I think was really, really key. It's funny. We actually got into this. We got into this a few times on the postgame show over the series. Who's the better team? And after Boston won, I think it was game 3. A lot of the guys in the chat and a lot of the guys in the show were like, hey, Boston's the better team. They're younger, they're healthier, they're bigger, and they're better. But Golden State's undoubtedly deeper. And when I go by it, I use one standard when I talk about depth. I look at your entire roster. How many of those guys are NBA starters, whether they're starting or not is immaterial, as opposed to NBA reserves. And Boston really only has their starting 5 and Grant Williams. I don't even consider Derek White an NBA starter. So they really have 6 NBA starters. Golden State's got like 9. They got all kinds of guys. Poole's a starter. Looney's a starter. Porter's a starter. I mean, they got a bunch of guys. Kuminga and Moody at some point down the road are going to be starters. They're just a lot deeper team. And when I looked at the bench scoring last night, 31-10 Golden State, plus 21 off the pine. That's huge. Huge.
Well, again, what do we talk about? The Warriors are going to win this series. That's why we picked them. Because they're from top to bottom, they're a better team, and their role players are better than Boston's role players. We're talking about the reserves here. That's how you break it down. And, by the way, the Warriors have Steph Curry, at the most important position in the NBA, and the Boston Celtics, as you pointed out, who's their point guard? That's the biggest difference in this series. Now, with that said, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a game 7 for all the marbles. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Again, Boston has shown a tremendous resiliency to bounce back and get off the mat after losses. You know what? It's funny. You know, we always say, I didn't realize it was back to January. And I said, what's the chances of them losing 3 in a row? And what is the old saying? Well, you can't lose 3 in a row until you lose 2 in a row. So they're there. I just think Boston's going to have to play a near, and I understand this, Larry. I understand what I'm saying. I think Boston on Thursday is going to have to play a near perfect game to beat the Warriors. I believe they're going to have to play a near perfect game. And what is near perfect? That means turnovers limited, no lulls. You cannot go into a 6 to 8 minute lull, which we have seen in this series by both teams on a regular basis. I don't think Boston can have one of those lulls on Thursday night if they're going to win this game, because I believe you're going to see the real Steph Curry back. All right, we want to talk about Boston losing 2 games in a row for the first time since January. When's the last time a healthy Steph Curry has had 2 bad games in a row?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen. Curry, by the way, 16 points, 7 of 22, 0 for 9 from 3. First time in 233 NBA games that Curry didn't make a 3. He had 3 rebounds, which is low for him. He's a great rebounding guard. 8 assists for Curry. You know, before we move off of Payton, we were talking about Payton before. Somebody asked me to ask you, is there a player in the league, past or present, that Payton reminds you of? And I was thinking, the more I was thinking about it, I was trying to think who you would say. I was going to say you would say Randy Brown, because I
cannot freaking believe that you just said that. I was just going to say Randy Brown. I can't say Randy Brown. Yes.
Yeah, because Randy Brown had a lot of the same traits. He was long-armed. He was tenacious. He was a suffocating on-the-ball guy, to the point where you don't feel comfortable dribbling it around, because here's Randy Brown about to pick you, and he's a better athlete than you. He still shot the ball. It wasn't like he was a non-shooter. He shot the ball, but he was kind of like Payton. He didn't shoot it often. But yeah, Randy Brown, and it's amazing.
I bet you a lot of people watching right now don't even know who Randy Brown is.
Yeah. Well, Randy Brown played with the Bulls and played with the Kings and played with, I forget where he played college ball. Was it New Mexico or something? Or
I can't even remember. And I should know he was a rookie with the Kings. I can't even remember his college. I don't think it was New Mexico, but now you've got me. But think about that. Randy Brown, after Sacramento went to Chicago, obviously, we saw him portrayed a little bit in The Last Dance, but I'm saying I still think you'd have to be a hardcore NBA fan, because I'm telling you, I guarantee there are people watching going, "Who the hell are they talking about?"
Exactly, who's Randy Brown?
That's a phenomenal job on your part. But what's phenomenal is you and I think alike, because I was getting ready to say Randy Brown.
Yeah, kind of a 6'3" guy, really physically dominant. What did you think of Green last night? He wound up, his line was 8 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists.
You're right, New Mexico State. So I'm wrong. You're right. I don't. To me, Green has not been the player that I thought he would be in this series. I thought that we would see a better Draymond Green in this series. I don't think it's been his best series. What did I think about his line last night? It didn't overwhelm me. I thought it was good, not great, but he's one of the players that I don't want to say disappointing. The Warriors are 1 game away from a championship, so I don't want to call it disappointing. I just thought he would be better in this series than he's been.
His offensive game has regressed significantly, for sure.
Oh, yes.
Brian Windhorst, do you know Windy at all?
Yeah. Yes, very well.
Okay, so he's on ESPN, I think, yesterday, and he's basically, and this one rankles me. It's like he called this a checkbook series because the Warriors have the highest payroll in the NBA, and I looked it up. I mean, they do have the highest payroll by like 3 or 4 million, but guess who's like 2 and 3? Like the Lakers and the Clippers, and teams that aren't anywhere close to the NBA Finals this year were on that list. Brooklyn, I think, was 2. I think Milwaukee's top 5. 5, and OKC's at the bottom, but everybody else, it's a capped league. I mean, what did you think of the comment? It seems to me I don't know. It's maybe I'm a Warrior fan, so to me, I'm sensitive to this. I felt like people, made it seem like the Warriors bought their titles before when they drafted everybody outside of KD. Right. And this team right here is still very much, they didn't. It's not like a bunch of mercenaries or a bunch of stars said, I'm going to go, let's all go play there. I mean, they drafted this team for the most part. What did you think? I mean, it's a capped league. I mean, I would say move on, but give me your thoughts on that comment. Do you think that's fair? Is that foul? I mean, is he wrong? Is he right?
Listen, I have a lot of respect for Brian Windhorst. I think he does a phenomenal job. I know he's, irked the feathers of a lot of people in the Bay Area. I look at this a couple of ways. The Warriors, when they moved from Oracle in Oakland to the Chase Center in downtown San Francisco, it was a cash cow. Then we had the pandemic, right? But the reality is the tickets that were sold and all of the suites and everything was a great sense of a great degree of revenue for the Warriors. But I give them credit. I give, Lacob and the ownership credit for spending their profits on what they're making back into the team. The reality is Curry drafted, Thompson drafted, right? Draymond Green drafted. We can go on with the other draft picks, but making the trade to get Wiggins, you're always going to get a free agent or two that wants to go on a championship run for whatever reason at the end of their career. We see it all the time, I think. But when you look at the Warriors nucleus, it's been homegrown. Do they have a high payroll? Yes. They play in a huge market. When I mean huge, I'm talking about the revenue that they bring in on a nightly basis from that Chase Center with the prices. You know it, and I know it. A lot of people, the quote-unquote average fan, can't even afford to go to a game there. They use that to their advantage. There's one thing I hate in sports. That's the owner that makes a lot of money that doesn't put it back into the team. You can't say that about Lacob and the Warriors. If I'm a fan of that franchise and I'm paying that kind of money, you better damn well pay your players, because I want a return in my investment as a season ticket holder. So to me, it's a win-win. I don't have any problem with it at all.
There's been a lot of rumors. Speaking of Windy, he got his fame, or he became, because he obviously followed LeBron. You think LeBron has made rumblings about wanting to play with Curry and wanting to play with the Warriors? Is his final act in the NBA going to be at Golden State?
Not if I'm running the Warriors. They don't need him. Why would you bring in LeBron James at this point in his career? I wouldn't. I mean, what makes you think it's going to work? I know LeBron's been in 10 NBA finals, and everywhere he's gone to, they've ended up in the finals. Well, let's see. Aren't the Warriors playing their 6th championship series? Why they need LeBron James?
They don't need him, but does he needs them. He's trying to chase down more rings. I just don't want to aid him in chasing down those rings, because I kind of feel like he's got one that he doesn't deserve anyway. So it's, the last thing I want to do is add to his finals ledger or his championship
which one
ledger.
Doesn't he deserve?
The one against Golden State.
Oh, when they were down 3-1 and Draymond
I thought that was a referee. That's the other thing. I can't stand NBA refs, Grant. The one thing, they are supposed to be the best refs in basketball, and I believe that they probably are. But man, it is uncanny that the team that's down at halftime in the third quarter winds up getting 3 or 4 kind of ticky-tack calls to shift the momentum. And wait a second, now Boston's hit a couple threes. It's a ball game again, and it feels so orchestrated, like not like they're trying to pick the winner, but like they're trying to milk the audience through the revenue, that's what it is. That's what the commercials are. They are revenue for the broadcast partners and for the league. And so if people turn off the game at halftime, the NBA loses money. So if you're making calls in the third quarter to support the team that's losing, less people are turning it off. I mean, they're in the NFL, they got it down to a science. In the NFL, I dare you to find second quarter teams up 21 points or something or 17 points on a lesser team, and all of a sudden they go up top and they got some huge play, and they're going to go up 24-0. But no. There's a hold. We're bringing that back. Why? Because they've done their studies. They know if the game gets to 24 points, this percentage of the people turn it off, and that's lost revenue. I'm not saying they're orchestrating the finish, but I definitely think they're officiating these games with their revenue in mind. And there doesn't have to be any kind of elaborate scheme or cover up to achieve the desired results. It's just like, hey guys, let's keep the audience engaged. I mean, the ticky-tack calls that go against the team that's leading in the third quarter, it's so predictable and so annoying to me at this point. You've covered these games and watched them closely. Yeah. Where would you put NBA officials? And I mean, how do you make sense of the fact that the losing team gets the calls in the third quarter?
I'm a little biased, so I'm gonna be transparent here.
Sure.
I'm friends with a lot of the NBA officials. I'm in contact with them even today on a fairly regular basis. I've also gone to the NBA referee training camp as an NBA broadcaster. We spend a lot of time going over a lot of things. And I will just say this. NBA referees are evaluated on every single whistle that they blow, and they're also evaluated on every call that they don't make. Now, I know a lot of fans are not going to believe this, but this is what we're told, and I don't know. I'm just telling you what we're told. Their elevation through the playoffs, okay, their reward is based on how they have called games previously. And if they make incorrect calls too often, it stunts their growth up the ladder as an NBA official. That did not used to be the case. I'll tell you this, you know this, Larry, Game 6 in the 2002 NBA Western Conference Finals with the Kings and the Lakers, to this day, is still considered the worst officiated game in NBA history. And Dick Bavetta, Bob Delaney, and Ted Bernhardt, I don't know for sure about Bernhardt, I can't remember, but Dick Bavetta and Bob Delaney ended up working the next round in the NBA Finals. And I said to myself, how is it that the worst officiated game in NBA history has rewarded officials to go to the next round? Because back then it was the good old boys league with Daryl Garrison. It's like it really didn't matter. You already knew before the season began who was going to be officiating in the NBA Finals. So I know it looks that way. I'm telling you, I'm a little biased here, so maybe I'm not being as objective as I need to be on this, just because of being in the NBA training camps and being around the officials so much and being told how they're evaluated and how they elevate themselves for their careers. If they make bad calls, it hurts them in their career. I'll just leave it at that.
Gotcha. I mean, I hear you. And I know how it plays. Believe me, I know how it plays. Right. I know there's people in the audience going, oh, you're a Warrior fan and you're a Warrior honk and you didn't like it, blah, blah, blah. And they're the best. But man, I don't know. I don't know. I'll tell you the other thing I don't like is I don't like in the regular season when they call a timeout and there's 10 guys on the floor and 7 head to the huddle and 3 go to the official to negotiate for more calls. I hate that. It's like, and then people who love the NBA say it's great. The players have an open dialogue with the officials. It's like, yeah, it's a little bit too open of a dialogue. I mean, Green gets away with all kinds of ridiculous histrionics, and it's all because he's cultivated these talking relationships with some of these officials. I think that has something to do with it. A couple things. Warriors missed 14 threes in a row last night. Wow. 14. And the Celtics missed 12 in a row and then went 8 for 8 and got back into the game. It's amazing to me that both things are amazing. One, it's amazing that Golden State, as well as they shoot, would miss 14 in a row with a team that has Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. That's amazing. But I don't know if that's more amazing or it's more amazing that the Celtics would miss 12 threes and then take 8 more. You know what I mean? I mean, imagine when the advent of the 3-point line, if you took 12 threes in a week, let alone 12 threes in a game, missed them all, and then took 8 more. I mean, you know what I mean? The game is so dominant on the 3-point line. It tells the story more times than not.
I think the game's suffering. I think the ratings prove that. I think the scores of the games prove that. I don't like the way the game's played now. And I got to tell you, I've talked to a lot of former players, particularly, that agree with me. I don't like the way the game's played now. I really don't. I think the league's going to have to. I think the league has gone too overboard. I think you and I talked about this on a previous show. The league has gone overboard with too much offense. You know, they want offense. All the rules are for offense. We've seen the same thing in the NFL, but we're just talking basketball here. They've gone overboard. They need to reel the game back in a little bit, because I don't think the game of basketball was meant to be decided on just that many 3-point shots. I think it is. I don't want to say it's ruined the game. It hasn't ruined the game. I think it's hurt the game. And I think it's actually taken fans away from the game. I think that there are some fans, not just a handful, that are like, I don't really want to watch it anymore. It's just a 3-point shooting contest. It's not really basketball the way I envision basketball being played. The game is not really played, Larry. There are a few teams, and the Warriors are one of them, by the way. But look at how many games on an ordinary night during the regular season really are unwatchable. They really are. They're unwatchable because of the way they play the game based on analytics and the 3-ball. You know, your centers don't play with their back to the basket anymore. You know, you have 7-footers out on the 3-point line. I mean, the game, to me, they've gone overboard. The NBA's gone too far with their offense.
We're talking with Grant Napear. 3 questions before we let you go. Who are your favorite NBA announcers? You were an NBA announcer, and I'll say it.
Yeah.
I think one of the very, very best for a long time. Who do you like? You hear these guys, well, you know these guys, you know their careers. Who's great in the NBA at doing what you did?
I grew up listening to Marv Albert, and to me, Marv was the best basketball announcer that ever lived, even to this day. You know, as a kid growing up, this was pre-internet and all the other things. I couldn't really, it's not like today. I don't know if I ever heard Chick Hearn do a game until I got to the West Coast. But if you're talking about current or you're talking about of all time, to me, Marv is absolutely the best.
How about currently? Announcer. I mean, just, or maybe guys that maybe we don't really realize that are awesome, but you do because you know them all.
Well, if you're talking about network level, I'm a big Kevin Harlan fan. I love energy. I'm an energy guy. That's how I am when I announce games. So I like energy guys. If you told me that I could watch a game with Mike Breen or Kevin Harlan announcing, and Mike Breen and Kevin Harlan styles, by the way, are considerably different. I would definitely watch both of those guys in an absolute heartbeat. I think Mark Followell, who does the Dallas Mavericks on TV, does a great job. I think he's one of the best in the league. I think Craig Bolerjack, who does the Utah Jazz, is one of the best in the league. And I'm talking about TV now. I'm not talking about radio. But those are some of the guys, and I'm missing. You know, Kevin Calabro obviously has been at the very top of his game, but those are some that, you know, stick out to me.
Is it hard? You've done both. Well, I mean, there's a number of guys. I'll tell you one guy that I really love. And once again, it goes back to Sacramento, and maybe I'm clouded because I love the person. But I think Tim Roy is really, really underrated. I think he's very good. You know, I knew him when he was doing the gold miner games, and we're sitting around the pool in Manitoba somewhere. But I mean, I just think Tim is. I think he's got. I love him and Tom together because I think they're great. It's a great combo. They play off each other brilliantly. But I just think Tim in a 2-man setting is very funny. I think he's got great pipes. And I just think he's a total consummate pro. I don't think he's the first guy you think of, but I think he's got a little bit understated. But I just think Warrior fans have been treated to a really professional announcer for a lot of years.
Well, Tim's a great guy. I mean, let's start right there. He's a phenomenal guy.
Yeah,
I've
absolutely
known Tim for 30 years. He's just, top shelf, and he is a hell of an announcer. And you think about the Warriors. I mean, Bill King was one of the best basketball announcers to ever live, in my opinion, too.
No doubt. What's the difference between doing it on the radio, doing it on TV?
night and day. It's like two different.
Yeah,
Two
I
different
was going to say
professions.
it's got to be
Yeah.
hugely different.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked doing basketball. I've liked doing all sports on radio much better than on TV. You know, in TV, sometimes you're judged more by what you don't say than what you do say. Radio, you are truly the eyes and ears. You are the show. You are more of an entertainer on radio. I think your style comes through a lot more in radio play-by-play. It is a true art form of sports broadcasting. And I think if you polled a lot of people like myself that did primarily TV for a number of years, they would tell you that their preference would be radio in a perfect world. So I think when I say their preference, maybe not monetarily, maybe not, but in terms of fun, the real joy and fun of broadcasting is radio, not TV.
Let's come back. Let's pay the bills right here. We'll come back with one last one for Grant Napear on the Krueg Show. Larry Krueger here for Telmetrics. Thanks to Casey Bateman and the good people at Telmetrics. If you're an occupational therapist, if you're an orthopedic surgeon, a chiropractor, a physical therapist of any kind, Telmetrics is designed for you to use in your practice and will greatly benefit your patients. Telmetrics uses computer vision and artificial intelligence and provides a platform for outpatient rehab therapy services, both in the clinical and the telehealth environment. So using Telmetrics can improve your patient's experience and much more. So for all your sports injury needs, or if you're a physical rehabilitation specialist of any kind, make sure you use telmetrics.co, Telmetrix.co. And thanks to Casey Bateman and all the good people at Telmetrics for being a proud sponsor of the Krueg. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Dan Coach Emilio. Dan is a buddy, and he is a phenomenal retirement planning specialist. And you can contact him today at securemoney.com, or at his number 925-628-9966. There's a lot of uncertainty in our world right now, and you want to make sure that your money is secure. That is the key. Danny's got 25 years of experience, born and raised right here in the Bay Area, and he can help you get an immediate 10% premium bonus on your principal retirement account. So give him a call, 925-628-9966. He'll make an appointment with you, and you can sit down. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a deal. He'll consult with you and come up with a strategy to get you going to where you want to be. Once again, 925-628-9966, securemoney.com on the web. And thanks to Dan Coach Emilio and all the people at Secure Money for being proud sponsors of the Krueg Show. And thanks to Tony Casera and the good people at Casera's Italian Menswear. They are housing the Krueg Show t-shirts, and they're a proud sponsor of the show as well. The Krueg Show t-shirt, the Krueg Show podcast t-shirt is available there at their store in Dublin. Their address is 7372 San Ramon Road in Dublin, California. And go see Tony Casera and get yourself a Krueg Show t-shirt and support the show. And special thanks to our sponsor, New York Style Italian Sausage. That's right, NewYorkStyleSausage.com is their website. Phenomenal product, whether it's the breakfast sausage, the Italian mild, the Italian spicy, the chorizo. You cannot go wrong with New York Style Italian Sausage. Once again, NewYorkStyleSausage.com, often imitated, never equaled. And they are a proud sponsor of the Krueg Show. Thanks to them as well. All right, welcome back. Final minute here with Grant Napear. Tom Pierce in the chat says, please hit the like and subscribe. It really helps the show get exposure on YouTube. Tommy, we appreciate that sentiment, and all the people in the chat, we appreciate you. Quick turnaround from last night. We went late last night. Quick turnaround this morning. All right, last one for Grant Napear. By the way, Grant stops by throughout the NBA playoffs. We'll take a little hiatus after the end of the playoffs. We'll talk a little bit more with Grant on a regular basis coming up in the fall, because Grant's a great football guy as well. Last one. I don't know if you saw the footage, but the Rangers fan dropped the Lightning fan in the walking out of there. I mean, it just, the violence is just like shocking, very horrible. Disturbing. And I don't even know what's more disturbing, the fact that he dropped him and some guy, or that everybody else just kept walking. I mean, it was just like nobody chased that guy down. It's a sad statement, really.
Well, it's going on all over our stadiums. I mean, you see video now with camera phones from baseball games, football games. I mean, the violence in the stands, and this was walking out of the Garden after the game, is disturbing. I mean, the violence, that is just the scene after that guy punched out the Lightning fan, and I didn't realize this, he also assaulted another person as well.
I didn't realize that.
And people are just standing around with their camera phones. No one's like, you would think somebody would like go and tackle that guy and hold him down on the ground until the police could come. You know what I mean? No,
Yeah.
He just walks right out, and then he subsequently got arrested after that. But I mean, I don't understand. I really don't. I think it's very disturbing. Very disturbing.
Yeah. And if the fans knew that the players don't respect that, they don't want you fighting for them. They don't want you fighting for the colors of the team. They want you to just get in your car and go home. Exactly, if they knew that, maybe the fans would act differently. All right, last one. You're a big NHL guy. Who do you like in the finals? The Tampa Bay Lightning or Nathan McKinnon and the Avs?
Yeah, I like Tampa. Vasilevsky in goal. Obviously, Steven Stamkos. They have incredible. They have an incredible power play. They are solid on the back end, but to me, it's about goaltending and who's better in the National Hockey League than Vasilevsky for Tampa Bay. Two-time defending Stanley Cup. My question to you, I'm going to throw it right back to you. If the Lightning win, do we start calling them a dynasty? 3 in a row?
Yes, absolutely. I think they're in the modern game. I think that's a dynasty. I think it absolutely is. I mean, what would you say? And I mean, they're not the Red Wings or anything. They're not Edmonton. They're not the
Islanders.
They're not the Islanders.
Yeah. The Islanders won 4 in a row from 80 to 84. Then Edmonton went on their run with Gretzky, Curry, Coffey, Fuhr, the whole. But if you're going to go back the last 40 years from 80, I mean, we could go back longer. But I mean, if they win this, then I think you have to put them in that conversation. I wouldn't put them ahead of over the Oilers. I wouldn't put them ahead of the Islanders and some other tremendous teams. But yes, if they win now, what they've been able to accomplish, they're right up there. Not the best, but you got to start talking about them.
By the way, I really enjoyed your rant on the masks. I thought that was fantastic. It's pure theater at this point. Have them on, have them off. It's down here. It's up here. It's not covering the nose. It is covering the nose. I'm not going to wear it. I'm going to wear it during the anthem. I'm not going to wear it during this, but I'm going to wear it during that. I mean, it's such theater at this point. It's like, I mean, what are we? Sometimes I'm looking at these coaches going, what are you doing? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get political at all, but I thought that was a great rant. Tell people where you. Oh, go ahead, Grant.
No, I was just going to say thank you. Well, you can see me. You can see my rants on YouTube. If you don't like that with Grant Napear, I do a podcast Tuesdays and Fridays. You can go to ifyoudon'tlikethat.com. I'm also doing a couple shows on No Filter. I just started doing a show this week. We're going to do it Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific. With Eric Burns, Sean Salisbury, and Jeremy Roenick. It's called Master Debaters on No Filter Network.
Master Debaters.
And then I do a show every day at normally 3 Pacific. It depends if I'm traveling, but on Listen app, which is basically a radio show. It's on an app. So I'm staying busy. But if you go to ifyoudon'tlikethat.com, you can catch all my work there.
Love your stuff, man. Mariah, 49 Faithful. This is great show, fellas. A wealth of knowledge. We appreciate it, Grant. This will be our last visit, or do you want to do one more before we take a little hiatus?
One more to talk? Why don't we do one more after so we can talk about who won and everything?
Yeah, let's do that. We'll do one more next week, and have a great week. And always fun to catch up with you. Have a terrific rest of your week.
You too, buddy.
Never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. We ain't never fall back. Hold our ground where we at.
Can we do Monday next week? Because I'm traveling Tuesday.